Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Real Birding Podcast, the show where we crack open the world of birding and talk about our own birding adventures. I'm going to start enunciating birding better because I feel like it sounds like burning sometimes, and the auto generator for the text to speech thing thinks I'm saying burning quite often. So maybe a perpetual clogged nose that makes it sound like that. But, anyways, good to see you this week, Caleb.
You too, man. I saw you in person since the previous episode that we put out, so that was quite a treat.
Yeah, hence why we didn't put an episode out last week. We were traveling and birding our butts off, and that's what we were going to talk about this weekend: the magic of October bird migration and the rarities that always seem to turn up in October. But before we get into that, let's touch on our bird quiz. This week, we are going to play for you the song of a North American bird, and you're going to guess the name of that bird in the comments for a chance at a shout out at the beginning of next week's episode. Here you go. All right, that's all you got. Without further ado, let's get into the show. Caleb, I don't know about you, but it officially feels like fall down here in Charlotte. I woke up this morning and it was like 55 degrees. I put a hoodie on, which I haven't been able to do since it seems like since last February. So I'm like elated that it's finally feeling like seasonal down here, you know?
Dude, it's so good right now. It's like 50 something out here for the high temperature today. I've got smart wool on and it feels so good. Like sleeves, pant legs, the
Oh
whole
yeah.
9 yards. It's just such a
Love
good
that
feeling.
stuff. Yeah, the birds have their smart wool on too. Well, not actually their smart wool, but they're all puffed up, so they're conserving their energy even better. And you can see that a lot, especially in like the white-throated sparrows that are moving through right now. They really look like just puffballs this time of year.
Yeah, man, they truly have their own little down jackets on, like literally, all of them. Yeah, you don't think about it, but the technology is coming straight from the birds for a reason.
Yeah. This is actually a good segue into the first bird that I want to talk about this week. And it's a bird that you got to see before I got into town last week. And that is the outstanding record of the Mexican violet ear that turned up in Copper Harbor. Um, I want to touch on the rarity, but I also want to touch on the fact that this is literally a Central American bird that is currently is it sub freezing right now in Copper Harbor at the nighttime? I would guess that it is. So it's a bird that is somehow able to survive when it's 100 degrees out, but also when it's 35, 40 degrees out. That's kind of like a magical thing that hummingbirds can do.
Well, and it's funny you bring all that up because it lives in the Sierra Madre Occidental largely, which is up high. I mean, a lot of them, they're up pretty high in the mountains. I think it actually gets quite cold up there at night in their
Mhm.
native range, so they're actually really hardy. What was the question you asked right before that?
Well, I certainly want to hear about your chase and successful chase of that bird. I'm extremely jealous, and it's a pretty extreme chase as far as Michigan bird twitching goes.
It certainly was. This is of the 9 kinds of hummingbirds that have been seen in Michigan, which is astounding, right? We only have really the one, the ruby-throated.
Right.
So I had seen 8 of the 9, and this is the only one that I hadn't seen. And these are just notoriously difficult to chase, dude. Birders know this. Like I've been waiting, I don't know, 30 years for an opportunity to chase this darn thing. And usually what happens is they show up at the feeder and they're so big and different looking that they'll get a photo and the photo will get circulated and then the bird's gone. That's almost always
Yeah.
what happens. You just can't get there in
Yeah.
time. This is the 2025 range map for Mexican violet, and you can see there are not really that many of them. It's been I think a kind of a down year for them. Not all of them are in here. There's been a couple others, but this really tells the story. They're really abundant in these mountains down here in southern Mexico, and for whatever reason, they come north and east. And there you go, the Lake Superior east-west net captured yet another mega, and it's sitting in Copper Harbor there at this person's feeder. So we got wind of this. It was way too late in the day to get up there because it's like a 9-hour drive for us in perfect conditions.
Yeah.
But what I did is I called up Dave Pavlik, who's doing the big year, and we'll have to have him on for some kind of episode here after he finishes this Michigan big year that he's doing, because it looks like he's about to break the record. And I knew he would be going for it. So I sort of just mooched a ride off him. I'm like, I knew I could almost certainly jump in with him. Great guy. So we did it. We left at 11 p.m. We drove all the way through the night. We didn't sleep a wink. I was just falling asleep. But he drove the whole way. I didn't even. I offered to help, but I would have been not too much help because I was so tired.
Yeah.
And we got there to this feeder in the pre-dawn, which you have to do because these things have a habit of like popping up at the feeder in the dark at first light and then never being seen again. That is totally a thing that these birds do. So I was like, dude, we are for sure getting there in the dark, and we did it. And of course, we got it. The bird stuck. I mean, it was an incredible experience. Yeah, dude. So these are not my photos, but this is the exact bird, and it ended up coming in and stayed the entire day, which was incredible. They're diurnal migrants; they can leave at any moment, and you got people driving up from the Lower Peninsula, arriving kind of throughout the day. It's very risky, but
Yeah.
they were all treated to the bird. And then the following morning, it did exactly what we feared. It came in the pre-dawn one time, drank a little bit of sugar, never seen again, and that was it.
Mm.
So
So
really
you were the
amazing
last.
that to get that off of the off of my back, like the monkey off my back. It's just been this is one of the ones that you might go your whole life and never get. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And part of the other side of the magic is that it's likely that another one turned up in Benzie County, Michigan, a few days later after this one was seen.
Yeah, I want to
So
say
the fact that,
like 2 days later, and that one was crazy because the homeowner, once they found out that there was a ton of people wanting to come see it, they were like, no way. They were
Mhm.
just super against it. So nobody else was able to go get that one. But
what I found funny is that when somebody offered to pay him $50 to go see the bird, he responded immediately, "Oh, I didn't know that was an option." And it's like, wow, I thought I wish we had more faith in our capitalist society here. Everyone should always expect that they can get money for things that people want, you know?
yeah, doesn't the market fix everything? Isn't that the theory?
Right. Maybe just not quite quick enough for people to see this bird. This is one that I would spend $50 to see, without thinking twice because uh,
Oh yeah.
not only was it closer than the Copper Harbor one, but yeah, you're just not guaranteed to get another one in your lifetime that's chaseable.
Absolutely. Another thing that I have to point out with this one that is so remarkable about it, and I'm going to go back to the range map here for this.
Yeah.
So basically, you would expect since it's a Mexican bird that Texas and Arizona would be where they all occur, right? You know what I mean? Just by proximity. But
Yeah.
look at this, dude. Arizona has, I don't know if they have zero, but they have almost zero. They just do not get this species. Texas gets them. And then there's this pathway up here. But for whatever reason, and a lot of Michigan's ones aren't entered here, but we have like 14 or 15 records of this species now.
Hmm.
And it's astounding. I think it's because the Great Lakes shoreline captures these things and dumps them at a feeder, and we just end up getting way more than almost anybody else in the East. This is like the third or fourth year where we've had two different ones in the state of Michigan in the same year. You know, so people are pretty blown away by the numbers that we get up here, and myself included.
Yeah, absolutely. If we can move on to Saturday morning, the first day I was able to bird after I got back in town, you and I met up for a lake watch at New Buffalo, and that was quite the eventful day. Back when we lived in the state together, we would bird together almost every weekend, and we would always talk about what mega are we going to find, what rarity, what review species. And we've turned up a few good things. We've turned up a Western Tanager in Holland. We've turned up a Townsend Solitaire in Saugatuck. A few Jaegers, probably a few kittiwakes here and there. But this weekend kind of blew those out of the water. We went for a lake watch at New Buffalo, and within about a couple hours, we were talking about, are we going to see a California gull today? Because we knew one had been seen about 15 miles to the north. And sure enough, we're scanning the beach, and I'm like, hey, Caleb, check out this yellow-legged herring gull. I was kind of saying it as a joke because there's all sorts of times where you get on a weird herring gull that has a few odd traits, and you kind of joke about it being the rarity. But the more we were looking at it, we were like, no, I think this is a California gull. And sure enough, we got closer and got knockout pictures. And if I can, I'll share my, yeah, look at that,
Dude,
man. So fun.
it was incredible, Will. When you first said to me, I've got a yellow-legged herring gull here, my brain immediately went, no, you don't. No, you don't. It's going to be something else, right? But California gull is so rare here that I was like, probably not. But it's like I literally got on this thing and it was just one by one, the field marks fell down. You got the red orbital ring, you got the down curved gape thing, you got the weird beak shape, darker mantle. You get it in flight. P8's all black.
Mhm.
Right there, it's nearly all black. I mean, it literally just checked all the boxes. And congrats, dude. That was one of the best birds I've ever been with you when you found.
I think it's the rarest bird I've found, certainly in Michigan. I mean, I've had some pretty astounding days at Miller Beach. I found a Harris's sparrow down there in 2023. But yeah, I mean, this is a pretty good bird. I don't think it's a review bird anymore because there's been a few more in recent years, but it's one of those birds that I've been looking for so long. And you look through so many gulls to try to find something as rare as a California gull. And when it finally happens, you're like, wow, I guess hard work does pay off, you know?
Well, it was so epic, man, because I had to wait probably 25 years to get mine. 25 years of birding, and it was the same story. They were always unchaseable. Very few of them were getting discovered, and it just took eons until I finally was able to nail one down. So interestingly, dude, my self-found one was at Warren Dunes, and I think it was the day before we were at New Buffalo. That's this pin here. They found this one on the beach, and this is like maybe 15 miles from New Buffalo. And then you found your bird here on this beach as we were doing our lake watch. So that whole
Yeah.
experience was a little surreal. And we think it's the same bird, right? It's probably the same bird,
Yeah.
right?
I ended up going back in and matching up a bunch of traits, even little chips in the bill that matched up perfectly.
It makes sense, but still, like, what are the odds that you would actually connect with that thing 15
Because
miles apart, a day apart? It's
yeah,
just like,
there's 10,000 gulls up and down the coast between those two spots. So to actually match up with one of those individuals it's pretty remarkable.
yeah, it really is. What's your state list up to now?
I think I'm up to 348 with black-throated gray warbler, which we got the next day as a chase bird, not as a self-found bird.
Dude, let's talk about that one too. Jeez.
Yeah, what a great bird. Another one that you have self-found in the past.
Indeed, indeed. Boy, it's just funny how many years have gone by, how many stories there are now. But yes, this bird was just like randomly picked up at a spot, basically along the Lake Michigan shore, maybe a week ago now, and it's been hanging out in kind of the honey locust trees or black locusts, which
Yeah,
kind of when I watched that bird, it didn't like the other native eastern trees. It really stuck to the locusts, and it reminds me of the kind of mesquite stuff that it's in the desert Southwest. I almost
yeah,
wondered if there's
totally.
like an insect similarity or something going on there about why it was doing that. But I mean, dude, this bird was putting on a show for people. There was just
Oh yeah.
crowds. Oh, so fun.
It's a beautiful one too, and it's really unlike any warblers that we have in the West. It's such a or in the East. It's such a cool. It's a reason why warblers are so cool. Unlike the unrelated old world leaf warblers, our warblers are so morphologically different, even though they're genetically very similar. For some reason, they all look so different, and they're really easy to tell apart and really striking as well. Aren't we lucky?
It's incredible, man. I'm sure that when the person who found this first got on it, he's probably thinking like, is that like a golden wing? Or,
Hmm.
with that head pattern, is it a chickadee? Like, what is this thing? And then that's exactly the thing that I had happen with this bird, which was the one that I found in Kent County here,
Oh yeah,
way back in January of 2007. And this thing did the same thing to me. This did not have the black chin, though. This was a young female, so it just had the black in the eye and up here. So when I first saw this, I was in my office and it was like a huge cold front, like minus 10 degrees out. And it just kind of flew into the tree outside my office window. There's like no bird habitat at all. I don't even get chickadees in that tree. And I see
right.
this thing. I'm talking on the phone and I'm like, that's not a chickadee. So is it an adult? It's like an alternate plumage blackpoll warbler with like the black cap. But I'm
Hmm.
like, they're not in that plumage that time of year. Even the adult males are not in that plumage. So then it
Right.
hit me. It was like literally that was the sequence. And within like 5 to 10 seconds, I was like, oh my God, that has to be a black-throated gray warbler. And it was. It was one of the
Dude, what are the odds? How much time do you spend daydreaming about finding a bird in some random patch of trees? Just I'm staring out my window right now, and every once in a while I get black-throated blues and red starts right out the window. Those are really common here in this time of year. And I think, what would it take to actually get a Townsend's warbler or a black-throated gray warbler or something, you know? But it doesn't ever happen. It just never
yeah.
actually happens, and it happened for you.
Exactly. It's just you're like realistically that is just not going to happen. Or that you would be in like a yard with like crazy habitat and really good feeders and water features, and then like people in I don't know New York State will get a wintering Townsend's warbler on their suet, that kind of stuff. But like
Yeah.
this wasn't even a place where I see chickadees. Like it's just like not even bird habitat. So yeah, I
Right.
felt it was a surreal experience, man. It was like being in a dream or something. And let me
Yeah.
show you the just to complete the story on this one. On the final day of its visit, I think it was there for like 3 days and it allowed chase, but the final morning, it was found dead under its roost, which was a
Mm,
kind of a smaller, thicker white pine type tree in the ornamental landscaping. Like it was kind of surprising to see where it was. And yeah, that bird is in the University of Michigan Museum. Yep.
oh, I didn't know that. Kind of a sad ending, but it's how it goes, you know. It I like to think of these birds as kind of making a sacrifice for their species, because I think when these vagrancies happen, it's one of the theories is that what they're doing is they're being sort of sent out by the forces of evolution as a prospector for new breeding habitat and new wintering habitat. So this bird goes out, it's somehow programmed to fly to Southwest Michigan. It doesn't make it, which means it can't take those genes back to the gene pool, which would allow other birds to make a similar journey, which strengthens their current breeding range. I don't know. I kind of you can kind of see it as a beautiful part of the complex story of birds because they cover so much ground and because they're migratory.
Yeah, and I would also say the distribution that each species of bird shows is due to exactly these forces. When birds
Right,
go to areas that don't work very well, they die and they don't pass on progeny that go to those same areas. That's exactly how this happens. And
right,
and conversely, rufous hummingbirds never used to be wintering in the east or southeast, but like I don't know, 30 years ago now, a few of them did it. They were started wintering in small numbers in like North Carolina, Florida, Georgia, and they survived just fine. And then they go back to Montana, have a bunch of babies, and now the species is a normal visitor. I mean, it's not common or abundant, but there's always, this in North Carolina, there's always rufous hummingbirds around in the winter on the East Coast now.
yeah.
Crazy.
And I'll bet you the ones that are here now are progeny of those first few birds that started doing that back in the 80s and 90s and stuff.
Yeah, actually, I have a band recovery on this. One of the when I lived in Montana, there was a couple of folks who were doing hummingbird banding out there, and they caught one of the ones that had wintered in North Carolina and gotten a band on it, and they caught it
Wow.
in like southwestern Montana. So that answered the question: are they definitely going back to the west, or once you get into the east, do you just stay in the east and like you're up north or something like that? So the rufous hummingbirds definitely keep going back to the northwest. So it's like a successful strategy. Pretty amazing,
It's crazy. Hey, speaking of crazy warbler records, I think we got to talk about the Grace's warbler that just turned up in Ontario. Isn't that crazy?
dude. This is another one of them. Like we talk about this all the time, but in birding, you just literally never know what's going to happen, and you can find stuff that is not supposed to be there at any time, and you literally just don't know where it's going to happen. In Chicago, maybe I don't know, at least 10 years ago now in the winter, they had a Grace's where it would pop up like one of the arboretums. And then they also had like a spring record at Point Pelee, which was that's a whole other story. But yeah, the bird was independently found by like 3 different parties at Point Pelee as it was hopping south to the tip. And then the final party had it like flying off the tip and heading out over Lake Erie. And they got photos of it in flight, not knowing
Wow.
that one had just been seen. And they identified it as a Grace's warbler from their photos and went back and found out that others had photographed it just minutes earlier, like 100 meters up the shore, and they
Wow.
all independently found it, and that was never seen again. But I mean, that's basically look at the range map here. This thing is like it is migratory, but they don't really have like a big vagrancy pattern to the east. But there's just like
Right.
these scattered reports. Um, and then this is the craziest thing, Will. This one that's currently being seen is here. It's in Algonquin Park in some like campground in the right out in like the massive woods of northern
Hmm.
Ontario.
I didn't
And
realize it was so far away from the Great Lakes.
yeah, it's no. I mean, this like proves that there are gems hidden everywhere, dude, and they're just mostly not being discovered.
Yeah.
Um, and this one's like chaseable. This was not the original finder. This is somebody who like followed up on it. But I mean, look at that. Can you believe that is there?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like over the scale of hundreds of years, it's bound to happen. But what are the odds that we get a chaseable one in Michigan in the next 40 or 50 years? Maybe it'll happen. It's just not a guaranteed thing, you know?
Definitely not guaranteed. I would say it might be 50-50 over the long haul
Yeah.
because, you can see from that range map, they can show up anywhere. But whether it's kind of like a Plinko board or something, or like you just like you throw a ping pong ball and which square does it land on? What's that game? Craps? Like red, black?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, right.
casinos? It's kind of like
Yeah.
craps. Is it going to be reds or blacks? Is it going to be
Mhm.
Michigan or New York or whatever? It's like you can't predict it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's such a pretty bird too. I don't have it for my life list. I'm dying to go see one now after kind of being reminded that they're a thing, but they're like a they're like a yellow-throated warbler, but minus all of the eyeliner and frills and whatnot. So it's just like beautiful yellow all over the front of the bird, and that sort of cerulean grayish color on the back and whatnot. Just such a knockout.
I like that comparison. In fact, I'll pull the picture back up here.
Hmm.
It's like they took the eyeliner out of a yellow-throated warbler. I totally agree with you. It's
Hmm.
super similar to that, and that would, in fact, that would be what you'd be thinking it was at first if
Probably.
you had like reasonable looks at this, because those do come up here in the late fall. That's a thing, and
Hmm.
you don't default to Grace's warbler. It's too rare, you know.
It's way too rare. Way too rare. Although the degree to which we're talking about that and hermit warbler whenever we're on the dune, we set ourselves up for failure by being ready for things like this, but then we never get it.
Well, we haven't had anything that good, but it's like just once in our lives, if we get one this good that flies over us and we can get documentable photos of it. Oh,
That's
I mean,
it.
that's the dream, dude. That's why you're up there, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Although
I
we'll
have
take
faith. I have faith, Will.
yeah.
It's gonna happen. Something like that is gonna happen
Yeah.
to us.
Especially like if you're doing what we're doing and finding the good spots and trying to predict where the good bird is going to show up. Of course, sometimes you can't be at Algonquin Park, but Point Pelee, if there's going to be one in the Midwest, you'd probably guess Point Pelee as or Whitefish Point as a viable option for both of them. But yeah,
Well, it's a great option to get the bird because of the geography, but doubly important is that there's so many people birding there that know what they're doing. So the chance once it's there, the chances of detection and documentation of it is that much higher. So yeah,
yeah,
it's both of those things.
yeah,
And then, but then you get a bird like this, and it's out in the middle of the Algonquin woods, and somebody who knows what they're doing just happens to get not only to get to the right spot, but to get their eyes on it and to see it well enough and to get the word out in time. I mean, it's such an astronomically small sequence of events, unlikely.
yeah. Hey, speaking of Whitefish Point, they're having quite the fall this year, aren't they? For rarities.
Dude, I was just thinking about that. Yeah, yellow-billed loon. I mean, come
Come
on.
on, talk about a
What are we
dream
doing?
bird.
So yeah, dude, yellow-billed loon. This is one of them. It's a very much a dream bird in the east. Like this is truly rare because they're way up in the like high Arctic, and then don't they winter in like the Bering Sea here, and they don't even hardly go
Oh
down
yeah,
into the Aleutians. It's something like
yeah,
that. Like I think they're all in these waters here, but for whatever reason, a few of them will come maybe down through Hudson Bay and then just end up in random spots. But
yeah.
of course, people standing at Whitefish had this thing migrating through, and I think they didn't want to believe it at first, but you know, how you see like a common loon and you get sun coming off the beak, especially in the fall, and it can look bright or white. So you're
Hmm.
always on edge, like, it's just going to be a common loon. But this thing flies past, dude. Look at this, and even in bad light and everything, it's got this honking like straw colored bill, like the perfect
Yeah,
yellow color, a bunch more white in the back than common. Common has like smaller little white squares, so the overall effect is not as white as this.
right.
But I can tell that the counters just didn't. They're and rightly so. Their brains are like telling them, "Well, it can't be a yellow billed loon. It's got to be like an anomalous common or whatever." But
Yeah.
what a dream bird, man.
I want to point out one cool thing about the loon family in general, from like a taxonomical standpoint, is it's actually, I think I've got this right. It's pretty easy to organize them because you've got the basal most species, which is red-throated loon. So that split off from the loon lineage the earliest. And then you've got the common loon and the Pacific loon lineages that split off later. So on the common side, you've got common loon and yellow-billed loon, which look very similar. And then on the Pacific loon side, you've got Pacific and Arctic, which look very similar. Do I have that right as far as you can tell?
You got more knowledge on this topic than I do, Will. I do not know.
I did a Wikipedia deep dive long ago, and I think that's how I've got it. But if you think about it, the Arctic loon has the more sort of diminutive bill and the rounder head shape, whereas the yellow-billed loon, it looks a little bit more like the common. You know, they're just bigger, thicker necks,
sure.
all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, accounting for possible convergent evolution, where it looks like it's going to be in the same group, but it's not. I totally agree that would be what I would predict. Like Arctic Pacific for sure would go together. Common yellow billed, and then did you say red throated is its own beast, something like that?
It's the basalmost group of that. I don't know if it's a family or if they're all in the Gavia genus. I think they're all Gavia.
They are Gavia, yeah.
And that's why the red throated looks like a
These are divers to all you Europeans that might be listening.
That's right.
Great northern diver, not common loon.
This might be a good debate to have. I get this with birders sometimes. Are you in the loon camp or the diver camp? If it was up for a debate and they were changing the name, would you be for or against the name change from loon to diver?
This is a really tough one, Scientifically, gosh, there's like the scientific side and the accuracy, the taxonomic accuracy side, but then there's also like the artistic and cultural side, and I kind of like them both, honestly. I like how when I go to Europe, they're using different names for some of the same birds. There's I don't know. It's like part of like the cultural identity almost.
Well,
and I wouldn't want to get rid of it.
I think the reason why people don't like loon is because they're called loons because the common loon song is so out there. It's so wild. It sounds like a crazy person or something. So it's like loony. So they want to call it a loon. You know what I mean? So people think it's like disrespectful to the bird. But I don't know about you, but I never thought about it that way. Like a loon is just its own thing. I don't associate it with any sort of like funny quality about it. And I don't think very many people do. I think it's generally seen as a very graceful and mysterious sort of creature. Don't you think?
Yeah, and I actually thought that the name loon came from the fact that they can't walk on land, so they kind of look
that could be
like the way you might somebody who's maybe drunk or struggling to walk or get around. You might call them loony or a loon or whatever. I don't actually know which one is correct, but I'm totally in agreement with you. That bird has such a mystique and a magic about it. The sounds, it's at night on these pristine lakes up north, and the ambiance of it all. Like I never even think anything but just of that side of its identity. I don't think about the goofiness at all. You know what I mean?
It's such a Northwoods culture. I'm thinking about the people of Maine and New Hampshire and probably upstate New York, as well as Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan. Everybody just really leans into that identity. It's almost like a symbol of that culture, which I know I definitely feel an affinity to. I spent so much time up there as a kid with my family. I'm sure you did too.
Absolutely. And people who aren't even birders all know this noise. It's like what you hear when you're up at the cabin,
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's such an important bird, and if you get like a good look at them, it's astonishing the plumage patterns on these things, man.
Yeah,
it's totally incredible that a bird could look like that.
Yep, unless you see them in their winter plumage, and then they're nothing special. But that breeding plumage in all 5 species are real knockouts.
You're not wrong. In fact, let me just put one last photo up so we can move on from this one. But yeah, dude, look at the feather intricacies on the upper parts here. I mean, how in the world does evolution produce something that looks like this?
It's unbelievable.
The brain.
Yeah, and that yellow bill, I might have called it the white-billed loon. It's not very yellow, is it? Dude, do you remember the yellow-billed loon that popped up in Las Vegas?
I do, in the fountain downtown, right?
Let's bring that up, and then we'll end the show after that. But it's got to be talked about as long as we're talking about crazy vagrants. I wonder what time of year that was.
And it was winter, but dude, white-billed diver is the name of that bird in Eurasia. So you're
of course it is.
Yeah.
They're smarter. What can we say? They're smarter.
I wouldn't go against that. And actually, I'm wrong. It's March. It was looks like it was spring migration. But yeah, this thing was. Isn't it like the Bellagio fountain or something like that?
Yeah, is there a photo that shows the habitat better? I remember I
I
saw one
I,
picture that shows the hotel behind the bird, and it's like, what is this thing doing? But it
I
makes
thought I
sense.
did too.
Where are you gonna go? Where are you gonna go where there's bigger water around there?
When you're in the desert, you take whatever water's available. We know this. Water birds just
Yeah,
simply have no choice because if this thing lands on land, it's not getting back up in the air. It's going to die. So
yeah,
yeah, and here it is floating around with Las Vegas downtown trash.
yeah. Used vapes and probably like unmentionable wrappers.
Yep, something like that.
It's so funny.
But it
The
did
bird
make it out
deserves
of
better
there.
than that.
Oh, it
Oh
so
yeah,
does, and it'll get better once it goes to the back to the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
but yeah, that bird got itself out of there and was not seen again after I think it was there for a week or two, something like that. Chased
Yeah.
by scads of birders.
All right, Caleb, should we wrap it up?
That's a wrap, man.
All right. Well, I want to acknowledge our last video that we put out, our last episode has done significantly better than any of our previous videos, especially on Spotify. So I just want to say, if you're a new listener, thanks for tuning in. If you like what we do, the best way you can support us on Spotify is to rate the show 5 stars. It just lets people know that people like you might like it. So if there's people that consume the same sort of stuff that you consume, they'll be pointed in our direction. So yeah, if you want to help out the show, that's the best way to do it. Otherwise, please participate in the bird quiz, and we will talk to you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Peace out, everybody. Have a great week out in the field, and go out there and find your own Grace's warbler. Let's go.
Absolutely. And yellow-billed loon. Peace.
Love it. Peace out.